You know, Ukraine has been very open about wanting to join the EU, but that's not that straightforward. Joining the EU can take a long time. If you take Croatia, for example, which was the latest country to join the bloc, that took about 10 years. So there will be countries today that will say there should be no shortcuts, no special treatment for Ukraine. But overall, EU leaders will want to somehow demonstrate that they stand united with Ukraine.
Is Jair Bolsonaro being slow to concede that he's lost this election?
Well, he hasn't conceded yet. The whole country is waiting for him to give a speech. According to local newspaper Folia, last night after the results came in, Bolsonaro refused to speak on the phone or to meet any of his ministers. And one of his aides later that night said that Bolsonaro had gone to sleep. This is the first time that the two leaders meet since Lula da Silva was elected president of Brazil a few months ago. And as you mentioned, Monica, the Amazon was a big topic of discussion. It's the biggest tropical rainforest in the world, but under Lula's predecessor, Jair Bolsonaro, deforestation went up by 75%. So now Lula is promising to aim for zero deforestation. And of course, Joe Biden has made fighting climate change one of his biggest priorities. It was chaos. The website kept crashing, and within a few hours, tickets were being resold elsewhere at much higher prices. You know, we're talking up to $22,000 and people say they waited 8-9 hours to try and get tickets. And of course, you know, Taylor Swift is one of the most famous singers in the world, and this was her first tour in 5 years. So her fans were hugely disappointed, and that's why some of them are now suing Ticketmaster. So in recent years, President Ortega has obliterated any opposition to his government. He's detained journalists, religious figures, political opponents. So without any real opposition, he won an election in 2021 and has become the longest-serving leader in the Americas. Now, Washington called that election a scam and imposed sanctions on Nicaragua.
We're looking at a picture of him here, a pizza chef, mafia killer turned pizza chef. I mean, how did they manage to arrest him? How did they find him?
So it's a good story. He somehow managed to escape police custody in Italy and relocated to Saint-Étienne, which is a city in the southwest of France. There he got a new identity, changed his name to Paolo, and got a job as a pizza chef in an Italian restaurant. So for 16 years, he led a very quiet life. But back in Italy, anti-mafia prosecutors never stopped looking for him. And he got a bit too confident. So in July 2021, he gave an interview to a local newspaper in France where he was boasting about his homemade tagliatelle and risotto. So eventually, authorities in Italy and France caught up with him. One of the people who have been arrested is a Greek MEP, Eva Kaili. She's Vice President of the European Parliament. So, you know, she denies any wrongdoing, but of course, this doesn't look good for the EU. And it's also worth mentioning that Qatar strenuously denies trying to buy influence in the European Parliament through gifts and through cash. But, you know, as we just heard from his lawyer, Mr. Panzeri is getting ready to reveal new information and to name the people that he's allegedly bribed. So, you know, this new development means that new information is going to come to light soon. 4 men have been charged for conspiring to commit murder and providing support and resources resulting in the death of the president. We know their names and their nationalities. 3 of them are Haitian American citizens and 1 of them is from Colombia. We also know that they were detained in Haiti and then transferred into US custody. They're going to appear in court in Miami on Wednesday, and if convicted, 3 of them are facing life sentences. Giorgia Meloni says she is in favour of what she calls a traditional family, you know, mother and father. She's against gay marriage and adoption, and this is a really big part of her campaign.
And also she'll have to potentially work with coalition partners. Are there areas where things may become difficult for this potential coalition?
They have similarities but also big differences, and one that has emerged a few days before the vote is their position on Russia and the war in Ukraine. Matteo Salvini, the leader of the League, has admired Vladimir Putin for a long time. Famously, a few years ago, he was photographed wearing a T-shirt with Putin's face on it, whereas Giorgia Meloni is a big supporter of sending weapons to Ukraine and of sanctions. So this is something that the coalition might, be clashing on.
And briefly, Silvio Berlusconi, a return to the Senate for him. What does this mean?
Political comeback that Berlusconi has been trying to achieve for a very long time. He's been Prime Minister of Italy for a very long time, but in the last few years he became known at home and abroad for his bunga bunga parties, and he was also, he's a convicted criminal on accounts of tax fraud and bribery. So for him, this, represents a big political comeback, and he'll want to work very closely with Meloni to keep his position.
Sofia, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.